how he looks when we see him for the very first time. Let me start there, and then I do want to ask you about him meeting with Netanyahu. Also, he's not just giving a speech, but he's going to meet with Netanyahu, who's going to be here in D.C. And now we're learning Trump is also going to meet with Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago. All right, let's back up. I'm trying to even see if the president is in this car.
It looks like the motorcade there has pulled up, Kira. We've been waiting for him to depart Delaware. It's a little bit behind schedule. But as you say, this would be the first time that we would see the president in public since he has been there isolating from COVID. And I will say that we've just in the last hour have gotten a note from his physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, saying that the president has now tested negative. There you can see the president, Kira, walking out of
Exactly. We see him now for the first time since isolating there in Rehoboth. He's got a mask in his hand.
All right, my friends. Of course, that was President Joe Biden that has been missing for many days now. Reports have it that he has not been seen since this last Thursday. He's been kind of missing in action. We did not know exactly where he was. Published reports say that the president had COVID. There's a lot of speculation as to whether or not he has COVID or not. But at any rate, we're glad to see him apparently healthy enough to go back and be at the White House. And of course, tomorrow he's supposed to be giving a major speech to the country pertaining to how he's going to finish up the rest of the year. Well, I got a major news story that I'm going to be breaking today, so we're going to get right into it. First, of course, I am J.R. Dukes. I'm your host. Welcome to my channel. I want to extend a warm welcome to all of my free-minded friends. I definitely appreciate having each and every one of you join me today. Today's news is explosive, and if true, is going to shake up the entire political landscape. As you probably know by now, President Joe Biden has dropped out of the 2024 presidential race. My friends, the fact is what we have witnessed with President Biden dropping out of this race is nothing short of a coup, any way you slice it. You have these big wigs in the Democratic Party, the power brokers, the deep state, if you will, that decided they no longer wanted Joe Biden as the candidate. And now they have successfully and unfortunately pushed this man out. It's interesting how the Democrats always refer to President Donald Trump as being the threat to democracy, which, as I just explained, the real clear threat to democracy is not President Donald Trump, but rather the Democratic deep state, these people that roll the entire party and de facto the entire country. Imagine this. Imagine the 14 million people that voted for President Joe Biden to be the head of the Democratic ticket. They have each and every one been disenfranchised. And listen, I am no big supporter of Joe Biden. Y'all know that my political views are rather conservative. There's no doubt about that. I don't ever hide that particular fact. But the reality is democracy demands that when people vote, that their vote counts. 14 million people voted for President Joe Biden to be the head of the Democratic ticket, and he should be the head of the ticket, period. The bottom line is the Democratic Party as a whole brought so much pressure to bear against President Joe Biden, he had no choice but to drop out. So obviously the Democratic Party thinks it's okay to disenfranchise 14 million Democratic voters that voted for President Biden, and they have apparently succeeded in getting their way. Now, someone could say easily, Joe Biden is not well, he cannot do the job, and it's appropriate that he steps aside. But if that's what you were thinking to yourself, you'd be missing the point I'm trying to make. The point is, President Biden is currently 81 years old, and they have known for years that President Biden has clearly some type of dementia, some type of health issue or health issues, and they have all conspired to hide that fact from you and from me. After all, the man is 81 years old today. The Democrats, as a party, as a group, as individuals, all conspired to hide these obvious facts from each and every one of us. We've known what's been going on all along, but they keep lying to us about what we can see with our own eyes. The reality has been clear for quite some time, my friends, and that is that President Joe Biden is not healthy enough to be president of the United States. Now, ask yourself a question. Why would they do this? My friends, it boils down to power. Power. That's what it all boils down to, and that's what these people want. And now that President Joe Biden had that disastrous debate with former President Donald Trump, they realize they cannot hide from us any longer what's right in front of our eyes. They cannot gaslight us and tell us, oh, it's a deep fake, it's cheap fakes, it's whatever. We were able to see it, and they know they can't hide it. So they had no choice but to acknowledge what has been so obvious for so long. All of these antics by the Democratic Party debate amount to nothing but gaslighting and perpetrating a fraud on the American public. The reality is this goes deeper than just a very poor performance at a debate. They realize now they can continue to manipulate their puppet. But the problem is they know by looking at the polls that Joe Biden cannot win. It's just that simple. He can be sick. He can be a puppet, no problem. But now that he's not able to win, the polls clearly show that former President Donald Trump is way ahead. They know his poll numbers only continue to increase, so they are desperate. They got to do something. And because Joe Biden's polls are so low, they know they have to replace him. In their mind, that is the only way they have a chance to hang on to power. It's truly a sad day in our country when 14 million Americans can have their votes nullified by a small group of these deep state individuals that think they know better. They think they know better than what you know or what I know. What they want, they will get, and they don't care who's in their way. They'll take you out. They'll go around you. They'll litigate you to death. They want the power, and it's really just that simple. I am definitely no supporter of President Joe Biden, but I am a supporter of democracy. I love this great constitutional republic that we all have, and I cannot stand it that 14 million voters are going to be disenfranchised because of their greed, because of their lust for power. It's absolutely outrageous, and we cannot let them away with it. Also, I've been calling out Republicans who have essentially been saying, hey, Joe Biden, if he can't run for 4 more years of office, then we have to kick him out of office right now today. He needs to resign the presidency. And I think that's very dangerous, my friends. We definitely do not want a President Kamala Harris. Now, here's the main point of today's story. Is unfortunately, I believe that the Republicans are about to get their wish. I have sources that are telling me that President Joe Biden is already in the process of transferring powers to Vice President Kamala Harris. In other words, very soon, President Joe Biden is not just going to jump out of the race for the presidency in the election for 2024. President Joe Biden is going to walk away from the presidency for some type of health reason. We all know that he's very sick. They have already started under the Presidential Succession Act to transfer the powers to Kamala Harris. Folks, we are about to have a President Kamala Harris. If my sources are correct, it's just a matter of time before we have President Kamala Harris. Let that sink in. You know that President Joe Biden is supposed to give a national speech tomorrow talking about how he's going to finish up the rest of his term for the American people. I don't know for a fact it's going to be tomorrow night, but imagine that if and during his speech, he basically goes ahead and turn the presidency over. You might ask yourself, why would Joe Biden do this? Well, I want to break it down to you because it basically boils down to 2 different reasons why President Joe Biden would do this. First and foremost, President Joe Biden has serious health issues. Again, they have been lying to us for quite some time now that everything's fine with President Biden. He has no issues. He's just hunky-dory. That is all a lie. President Biden, unfortunately, has some type of serious dementia, some type of serious health issue of some sort that is compromising his ability to think, his ability to act. He's in decline, folks. It's really just that simple. If you live long enough, it's going to happen to each and every one of us. And that, of course, is sad, but we have to have a president that can function, that is clear-minded, that can answer that 3 o'clock in the morning phone call. Secondly, this is nothing more than another strategic play by the Democratic Party to help bolster the chances of Kamala Harris, soon to be President Kamala Harris, to win election in November 2024. By allowing Vice President Kamala Harris to become the president right now, they are bolstering her chance to become the next president of the United States and giving her her best chance of taking on President Donald Trump. The thinking is by her gaining experience, hand-on experience as president of the United States, even for a short period of time, Harris will be able to address the perceived lack of experience that she has to become the next president of the United States. Think of it this way. This move will simply allow her to bolster, basically brag about, say that she has the experience that's needed to do the job as president of the United States. I would say one other side point would be that if she becomes president of the United States, this in all likelihood will lessen the chance of there being legal challenges by the Republican Party against some of the money that she is using that were contributed to the Biden and Harris campaign. There are questions out there as to whether or not she, as the head of the ticket, can actually use that money, or whether that money has to be refunded to the original donors. I hear different opinions on the subject, but at least if she is president of the United States, I believe it will cut out a lot of those potential challenges that are out there, and it will definitely bolster the bottom line of the campaign. It will infuse it with cash that she can use right now out of the gate running. Now, what is this likely to mean for our country? Let's pretend that, as reported, Vice President Harris is about to become President Harris. Well, what I think is going to happen is she is going to try to separate herself, differentiate herself from President Joe Biden. She's going to also try to take away some of the best arguments that Donald Trump has to become the next president of the United States. Specifically, for example, she might order the border closed. Instead of letting everybody and their brother in, including criminals, rapists, whatever's coming across the border, she can simply close the border and look strong and tell the American people, I'm going to seal the border. I said I would do it, and I did it. Now, of course, that would be extremely disingenuous, because we all know that she is AKA the border czar, and she did absolutely nothing for the border. She's a complete failure in that area. It's kind of hard to argue that she's not. The border czar, what a joke. She's only been to the border one time in her entire life. Crazy. But I'm telling you, that's what she's going to try to do. This transition, if it happens, is going to have far-reaching implications for our country and for the world. We're going to see shifts in policy, strategy, and possibly even the Democratic Party platform very soon. It's going to be a fascinating and turbulent time in American politics. And what you need to do in response to this is stay informed. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Hit the thumbs up button, like and share this with some of your indoctrinated friends. This is going to be the best way to stay up to date, is to educate yourself, listen to my channel similar to mine, and be observant of what's going on. And most importantly, my friends, get out and vote this November. It's absolutely critical. I truly believe this is the most consequential election in our lifetimes, and we all must do our part. I definitely appreciate you joining me today. I don't take it for granted. I appreciate each and every one of you taking time to hear what I have to say. Interesting times we live in, my friends. I always say, keep that mind free. Never give up. Until next time, my friends, I am J.R. Dukes.